Yeah.
Oh boy, we're live.
We can get some comments, get some feedback.
Oh boy. Give us some
Exciting.
juicy banners, Zach.
You know,
I love a good juicy banner. Cinematary fun facts are my favorite.
Oh, beef's taken off.
Oh, bye beef.
beef.
Man,
We haven't even
well,
started yet.
I know. And I see a cat in your background, Zach. Just went through the door.
So,
They're leaving to meet each other, actually.
yeah. They're going through the door portal.
Mhm.
Yeah, of course.
Cats have those powers, yeah.
Yeah. We all live in the same house and we're just in different rooms.
Mhm.
That's how podcasts work.
Exactly. All right. Here we go.
Cinematary fun fact right there.
Yes, we all podcast in the same room.
Mhm.
All right. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. And welcome to episode 357 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Aster.
Jessy.
And Julianna.
And in today's episode, we'll be talking about movies that we saw this week in part 1. And in part 2, we'll be concluding our Feel Good Queer movie series with 2015's Tangerine. Right now on the site, head over to cinematary.com. If you've not kept up with the series so far, we got all the other episodes up there on the podcast page. We got reviews of Inside, the new Bo Burnham special, as well as Girl Interrupted. And then we will be getting hopefully a new review this coming up week. So good stuff on cinematary.com if you want to check it out. We'll also have our Young Critics Watch Old Movies schedule, whatever that thing's called. We'll have that as well. It'll be good. Let's go ahead. I'm going to take a nice tea sip for ASMR purposes.
Need a little tea break.
You better slurp. No slurp?
It went down bad. I didn't do it correctly.
Ah.
It's bad as ASMR. Let's go ahead and jump into movies that we saw this week. And the first one, I think, is kind of the big... I guess blockbusters are back. The big movie of the last week, and that is In the Heights, which is the adaptation of the Broadway musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who I think a lot of people know from Hamilton. But this is kind of the one that really got him on the map. The film version is directed by John M. Chu, who did Step Up, G.I. Joe, but I think he most recently did Crazy Rich Asians, which was a big hit. And pretty much the story of In the Heights, you have this bodega owner, Usnavi, who is going to be closing his store and retiring to the Dominican Republic, but he's trying to debate if he wants to do that or stay in Washington Heights, where he's been his whole life. And we kind of have this ticking clock to a block-wide blackout, and you just kind of have a assortment of characters in Washington Heights that you're following throughout the course of the movie. But yeah, I got this on HBO Max, where it is living at the moment. But Aster and Jessy, I know you both saw it as well. Jessy, let's start with you. What did you make of In the Heights?
Yeah, I have kind of like a sentimentality for In the Heights because when I was a freshman in high school, I was in an advanced show choir. So we did dancing and singing, and we competed across the country. I'm really making it sound cooler than it was. We only competed in one place, and it was in New York. But it was when In the Heights was first kind of getting its rise to fame as a Broadway musical. And so part of our show that we did was some tunes from In the Heights. So I knew a lot of the songs from that. Some of our choir group actually got to see it in New York. I didn't go see it because it was going to be extra money on our trip, and it was already kind of an expensive trip. So I was just really, really thrilled that it was to see that it was actually finally making it to television or to the big screen, like as a movie. I love the music in it. I loved it then, and I still really love it now. And it's just really something to get to see it. I think the music in it is just so vibrant, energizing, and especially for me because I know a lot of the music. It was just like really just made me just feel so energized and happy in my seat. And I think also just like as a Latina person, I just felt really good to see like a movie that's almost all like Latin cast. It's like 99%. There's like one or two white people in the cast, but like most of the cast is Latin, and so that was really cool to kind of hear their stories. I feel like that's not something we get to see as often as we should, and it's just so well done. I think the acting is really, really good, and the performances, the music. I just think that it's very immersive and rich experience. I don't think it's like a perfect movie by any means, but it just made me happy that it exists and that it really came out as good as it did too. And I think also something I really like about it is just the idea, like one of the quotes in the movie was, you can't walk, something along the lines of like, you can't walk 2 blocks in this neighborhood without running into somebody's dream. So a big part of the movie is like everybody has these big dreams for themselves, and us, as an adult, you kind of reconcile with what does it mean to me to have this dream? What does it mean to me if I never really get to see this dream achieved? And how can I, when do I need to face the fact that I may have to kind of temper my expectations with this and still like live a content life rather than a life where I'm just wishing I had this other life. I think that's something like as a young adult I reconcile with, like being on a budget, but like having this wanderlust, like I want to travel and I want to see in the world, but I also am a public servant. And so it's something I think that any young adult especially can reconcile with, like, am I going to see these dreams achieved? And what do I do if it doesn't play out the way I hope it was? So that was kind of touching to me. But what did you guys make of it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it and wasn't expecting to. I saw it in the theater with my wife. She's a big musical theater Broadway person.
Yeah.
And she comes from a musical theater family, which is like a different world from mine, because I'm not really into musical theater. So when we first met, she had like an In the Heights shirt, and this was like back in 2012, I think.
That's when it wasn't cool, yeah.
Yeah, so before...
Oh, it's cool if you're a big dork.
Yeah.
No offense to your wife.
No. She would take that. So before Hamilton was even like a thing, she's like, In the Heights is this like new musical, and I really love it, and it's really good. And then when Hamilton came out, she's like, Hamilton's good, but it's no In the Heights, and that's kind of been her thing. And so like now all of a sudden she's like, I knew about In the Heights before everyone else did.
Yeah.
Not to be like I knew about it first, but so it was exciting to go see it with her, someone who's like really intimately familiar with the work. Has seen the musical, knows the music, and has been able to like tell me all these like little details. Hello, Beef.
Hey, Beef.
For those, Beef?
Yes, Beef appearance.
For those only listening, my cat is here.
And his name is Beef.
Beef.
Or her?
He, I guess. I was so we're gendering cats, but Beef, the dude. And so we saw it in the theater, and so it was nice to have like this curated experience with someone who's like intimately familiar with it. And Hamilton was something that like I think Hamilton has a lot of great songs and a lot of really bad ones, and it's also kind of a sloppy show. When I saw the roadshow version, it's very episodic, and it feels like a lot of interesting ideas just kind of like strung together episodically. Whereas In the Heights is like this really cohesive, immersive world, and seeing it as a film without really knowing much about it other than my wife really is into it, I was really surprised that I liked it at all. I think John M. Chu as a director is a really fascinating director. I love Step Up 3D. I think it's an incredible film. And I saw Crazy Rich Asians, which I also thought was like, there's something about the lightness of his touch and the way that he handles that kind of musical or syncopated dance movements that I think is really fascinating. Even if the films aren't like, this is my new favorite film or this is the best film of the year, I think he's a very fascinating director. And I was really moved by a lot of parts of In the Heights that I didn't expect to be. Like, I was kind of texting my friends like, "Oh, gotta go see this movie that I'm not interested in." and then when I was done, I was like, "This stupid fucking movie made me cry."
Oh, I definitely teared up a little, yeah, for sure.
This scene where I'm forgetting the character's name, is it Vanessa, or she comes back from Stanford and sings the song like "Breathe," which I wasn't familiar with. I was like, didn't realize I was kind of crying a little bit, but I was like, "Oh my God, like, don't look at me. I'm having feelings about this." But I think, I really love musicals, like cinematic musicals. I love film musicals, but I feel like the last like 2 decades or so of Hollywood musicals have mostly been really bad. And I don't mean that as like musicals are bad, but like having people that can't sing because they're A-listers, like Russell Crowe and Les Mis.
Oh Lord, that was a shit show.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, and like, or they don't really seem to be adapted for the screen. It's kind of like, we filmed the play, and here's some camera tricks. But John M. Chu really, like, I don't know. It's like he took in the stage musical and turned it into a film. And the way that it felt, it's like, this could only be a film in this way. There's just so many great cinematic devices, and the camera moves as fluidly as the dancers. And I was just really drawn into it. And for a movie that's like almost 2.5 hours, it did not feel like that length at all. And I was kind of dreading that. I was like, oh my God, not only is it something I don't like, I'm not a huge Lin-Manuel Miranda fan, but this thing's like 2.5 hours. But yeah, I stand corrected. It was very enjoyable. I'm glad I saw it in the theater.
I think I did. I would disagree there. I did feel like there were points in it where I felt it lagged just a bit. As energized and immersive as I felt like it was, there were moments where I just felt like I was just levitating off my seat. But there were other moments where I'm like, man, I do care, I think, about these characters, and I do care about, this romance and this and that and that. But there were just moments where I was like, I'm just kind of ready for this to push forward just a little bit, because I get it. Like, you like her, she likes you, but what's she going to do about college? Oh no, let's hurry up just a bit. So there were definitely moments where it felt like I was sitting in a play, and that's kind of what I don't want to feel like when I'm in the theater, weirdly. But I do want to feel like when I'm at like a musical, like in a theater, or in a performance theater, not a movie theater. What about you, Zach?
So I don't have much of a history with the play. I'm not a giant Lin-Manuel Miranda fan. He's very earnest, which is fine.
I'm so glad he wasn't the star.
Yeah. Like I was glad, like, he got his like thing so that you're like, oh, it's him, but he didn't like overpower it. So it was like a good amount. It was a good amount.
Yeah.
I don't think I really like go for his style of song very much. I've never watched Hamilton like in play form or in Broadway musical form, but like I've like heard the music from it. And so overall, like, that part of it was fine. The story is pretty straightforward. I was listening to a podcast actually reviewing it late last week, and they brought up a kind of interesting point. And so maybe y'all who are more versed in like the actual play will get this, but the one thing they brought up is that, so there's the Jimmy Smits character, who is the taxi company owner, who is also the father of Nina, who Aster was just talking about. I guess in the play, she was dating the person who works at the taxi company, which is played by Corey Hawkins, who's African American. And I guess that's a role that's predominantly played by a black character or black actor in the play as well, because there's like this kind of racial tension between they kind of break up because her father has an issue with that. And so that's something that's kind of removed completely from the movie. Like, that's never like engaged with. The other thing I was just thinking about as well is just kind of its handling of gentrification. Like, it handles it, like it's pretty open about it to a degree, which is fine, but it kind of just treats it more as like, I forgot the way that they described it. They had a really good interview in the New York Times where they were talking about the whole colorism issue, which I'm not going to touch because that's not my issue. That's not my thing to touch. But they were talking about like how it covered gentrification, and it was kind of like a just something like, you kind of have to pull your bootstraps up and like overcome, and instead of like being like a systemic thing that's like generated through that form, which is so hard to like engage with cinematically. So I'm not faulting it for that, but I feel like it was such a giant elephant in the room for this story that was never really broached.
Andrew, who did see it on Broadway, said that it seemed like that was maybe a little bit more of the plot in the musical than it made its way into the movie, but I can't verify that. I don't know.
I was going to say, I am in kind of the unique position where I've seen Hamilton and In the Heights, like the plays, and not either of the like film adaptations. Well, I didn't see it like on Broadway, but at least In the Heights. Which this is showing my age, but I was a senior in high school when the Hamilton craze was happening, and so my high school did a performance of it. So I don't know how much they changed it, to like, for the teeny bopper version, basically.
The kids bought Hamilton.
Right. And so I don't know. Well, or they didn't do Hamilton, they did In the Heights. And then I saw Hamilton when it was in Chicago.
Gotcha.
That's so cool.
But anyway, yeah, it was really cool. And I was going to ask, none of you guys have seen In the Heights, like, you've just seen the movie and not the stage
I wish
show.
I had gone to see it. I regret not seeing it, but no.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, I feel like this is always a difficulty with like film adaptations of stage plays, but especially in Hamilton, like there's so much play with like the set pieces and choreography. And I feel like that can be so difficult to adapt into a film without it seeming like, oh, this is just a recording of a play or like of a musical, and so I wonder if you guys like made any particular observations about that.
I think to the point that Aster made earlier, John M. Chu does a pretty good job of like kind of sweeping you up into stuff. And like, I agree with their point. He is not the master of movie musicals in the slightest, but he understands like how to like get a giant group of people together in an engaging way, And so there's like the scene like in this movie where they're at the pool where they just that's such a great scene. They have the scene late in the movie where they're all like in the alleyway, kind of near the end, and there's
what's it called? The bandera, as on a bandera song.
Yeah,
and so, the flags.
And those are such like
Carnaval. It's Carnaval.
And they're such captivating scenes because you have all of these like colors and all this movement and all these characters all kind of intertwining within one another. And so that's something that you accomplish on Broadway in a much different way than you accomplish, because like with film you kind of have like these like level systems, and like especially that one the second example, like he's able to like tier it up, so you have people like in different apartment buildings and stuff like that. And so like while he's not the most, oh my gosh, like John M. Chu is just like blowing my mind, he does have a way of like entertaining you because like it's a big movie, and it like and he understands how to handle that really well.
I think he definitely makes the area feel very sprawling versus like I think in a play you definitely feel like you're very confined. Like they move a few like wooden pieces around and you're like, okay, now we're in an apartment, okay, now we're like by a pool, but like you just shifting a few things. But in the movie it just feels like we spread out so much, we cover so many different areas there. What were you gonna say, Aster? I interrupted.
Oh no, you didn't. I was gonna say that I think with Chu's films, I think his step-up films are better. I like them more than his more contemporary stuff. I'm excited that he's making more work, and he's one of those filmmakers I can't wait to see. I'm probably going to see more of their stuff as it comes out. But I think Zach and Jess, what you're talking about is the way that I think what I was getting at within the Heights is the way that the staging of a stage musical has to be fluid in order just to keep it going. And I think he translated that really well by having like not seeming like here's a scene and then it ends, and then here's another scene and then it ends, which a lot of musicals on film in the last like 20 or 30 years kind of have that kind of clunky, abrupt feeling to it. And when I saw the roadshow version of Hamilton, that was one of the most interesting parts. And it really made a big difference. I mean, I saw it in the theater. It's different than listening to it on a CD or an MP3. But it really kind of changes the show when you see the way that they're just like using a very sparse amount of stuff, but moving it around in this kind of like fluid way. And so I think the movie does that well, but I think Chu does it better maybe in Crazy Rich Asians, even though I think I like In the Heights better as a film, and definitely does it better in Step Up 3D, which is one of my favorites. But if there was another point I was trying to make, I lost it. So
you're making me feel like I really want to watch Step Up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I got to watch Step Up 3D now because it sounds amazing.
Well, In the Heights, it's on HBO Max, but it's also in theaters if you want to go check it out there. Speaking of new releases, though, Julianne, I'm going to toss it over to you for 2 reviews of 2 new releases.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can do both of them. So the first one that I saw these both like a couple of days ago. One of them was I saw last night, which was All Light Everywhere, which is a documentary, which it isn't incredibly focused, but the main sort of through line of it is about police body cameras, and so it deals with a lot of like the history of the camera and surveillance, and sort of I feel like the entire kind of thesis of the documentary is about how like a lot of people assume that the camera is a bias-free device, but really any kind of vision, even just like literally our eyeballs have a blind spot in them that our brain just filters out. And so there's like kind of no it's not possible to have like an objective lens or like an objective observation. I thought it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen anything else by this director. Let me
Theo Anthony.
Yes, Theo Anthony. I was like, he has like a 2 first name kind of name.
As another 2 first namer, yeah.
But anyway, he hasn't made a ton. His other film that came out recently was called Rat Film, which is all about sort of rats in the urban environment. One thing I really liked about it is that there's like some parts of it where he's talking about historical stuff, like the history of the camera and that kind of thing. But a lot of it is all very much based on like Boston, which is, I assume, the city that he's operating out of. And so is Rat Film. With the Boston Police Department, and then also this really interesting program that was operating in Boston of a man who has like this plane that takes like hundreds of pictures of the city every second, and it's like a live Google Earth, and you can see all the cars moving around and all people super tiny and that kind of thing. And it was being used in 2017, is being used by the Baltimore Police Department for like 6 months, like in secret. Like the mayor didn't even know about it. And then it came out, and obviously it was a big scandal. And so they talked to the guy who developed that technology and everything, and sort of his ideas for it as this sort of utopian crime deterrent. But yeah, it's definitely one of those documentaries that's more of like, it's less of like a human interest kind of style where we're following kind of one character, and it's a little bit more sort of detached and maybe kind of, I guess, cerebral. There's not a lot of like narration and that kind of thing. It's just sort of like, I guess, like a series of vignettes. I had a couple of bones to pick. Yeah. It's like they have some of the narration is like voiceover, and then some of it is like a text caption, and that was kind of annoying to me. But other than that, I thought it was really great, and I definitely want to watch his other film.
I feel like it was on the same line as the second movie you saw, like same vibe.
Yeah, it's the exact same vibe as the other movie that I've seen recently, which is the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. Extremely different vibe. Absolutely hated this movie. I have not seen. This is a sequel, actually, to another movie called Hitman's Bodyguard. It's starring Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. being the hitman, and the titular hitman, and Ryan Reynolds playing the bodyguard. It's just a regular sort of action movie blockbuster fodder, but like keyed up to 10 in a comedic way. Selma Hayek is also in this, and she plays the wife. And she's just like this really crazy, like very vulgar, like sex obsessed woman who's obsessed also with having a baby with Samuel L. Jackson. And that's like the big sort of through line of the plot. I don't know. Every character was just really irksome. They were just so over the top, but like not in a way that was actually fun. And also, I don't know if I just have particularly like a beef with Ryan Reynolds, but you know how if you've seen a couple of Ryan Reynolds movies, you know that he kind of plays the same character over and over, where he's just sort of like, I'm just like this guy, you know? Ooh, I'm so cute. You can't be mad at me. I'm just like this little guy, and I'm so reasonable. And like the audience is like supposed to identify with his character, but I was just like, ugh. She's such a little twerp.
Well, it's like his personality is like, I'm hot and I'm very self-aware. And so like
I feel like
it's Deadpool is just like mutated into a person, and that's
right.
Is that a baby?
That was a cat. Aw, poor beef. But anyway, so it was just bad, but not in a fun, interesting way, because sometimes a bad movie is fun.
I hate that. It's not.
But this one was just kind of bad. So watch All Light Everywhere, skip the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard.
There you go. All right. Aster, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Oh, is this where I get to talk about John Carpenter's pro-life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so recently I've been revisiting some John Carpenter's, and as a completist, there were only 4 films of his that I hadn't seen yet. One of them being Pro-Life, which is from 2006. It's part of the Masters of Horror show, where each episode's like an hour long, self-contained horror film, usually by a master of horror like Takashi Miike or Joe Dante, Dario Argento, and Carpenter did too. One, Cigarette Burns, which I think is really incredible. And Pro-Life, which Pro-Life's reputation preceded it. Pretty much everyone I've talked to, either seen on Letterboxd or on Twitter or in real life, talks about this one as his worst film, like just hands down his worst. And it has some stuff that's kind of like, I would say it's maybe his weakest effort, but I love John Carpenter so much that I think it's still awesome. But essentially, I think what's really neat about it is being in 2006, this was like the height of the Bush era. And for those that maybe weren't old enough or remember the Bush era, he's pretty puritanical when it came to abortion rights. Stem cell research was a big thing, and an abstinence-only sex education. So it just kind of felt like the dark ages of human sexuality during the Bush era. And so Pro-Life, as its title signals, is a film about an abortion clinic. And it starts out with this young girl running through the woods. And she almost gets hit by a car, and the people in the car are 2 people that work at this clinic. They're like, yeah, we'll take you to this women's clinic. It's kind of like Planned Parenthood, but it doesn't say, there's no title on it for probably obvious reasons. And so they're checking this young girl out, and then this like menacing red van shows up with Ron Perlman in it, and he is this young girl's dad. And he's well known by the clinic staff as just this anti-abortion, right-wing kind of nut job that harasses the clinic. And so most of John Carpenter's movies are usually about a siege of some kind, kind of a Alamo type stuff. And so what ends up happening is the young girl has been impregnated by a demon, and there is a demon growing inside of her, and that's why she wants it aborted. And the demon speaks to the dad in this voice, and he mistakes it for the voice of God or an angel, telling him that he needs to protect this baby. So he and 3 of his sons, who all have shotguns, decide to storm this abortion clinic. And the people inside the I should not call it an abortion clinic. It's a healthcare, like a health provider clinic that happens to also provide abortions.
Thank you. I like that.
Yeah. I should know better than that. Women's studies degrees going to good use over here. In my discussion,
I'm sure whatever they refer to it in the movie is what you're thinking of, but
that could be it. And so then there's like this multi-level action of Ron Perlman and his like 3 sons trying to storm this clinic, and then the young girl trying to convince these doctors like, you have to abort this baby, but her stomach is just growing and growing and growing until
does it show her the conception of this demon situation?
It certainly does, in a kind of flashback in an interesting way. But overall, like, I can totally see why the film's considered Carpenter's weakest. There's some parts that kind of feel like they're on autopilot. And his later films, like from Ghosts of Mars, which I'm a huge fan of, and The Ward, which I also absolutely love, are kind of like recombinations of earlier John Carpenter films. So Pro-Life is kind of like Prince of Darkness plus Assault on Precinct 13. But then there's like several references to The Thing, like just direct, like these are the same effects that we use in The Thing. We're just using them in this movie. But I highly recommend definitely horror fans and Carpenter completists to check it out. I don't think it's entirely deserving of its reputation as a like festering pile of crap. I think there's some really awesome stuff in it. And the way that Carpenter like unravels the exposition, like the moment you find out that the dude in the red van is both this abortion clinic harasser and this girl's dad, is like this brilliant moment. So there's all these great scenes where like characters act one way and then all of a sudden something happens and they have to completely change their reaction or their attitude to adapt to the circumstances. And that stuff's really cool.
Is it supposed to be like a horror? It sounds almost more like it's supposed to be comedic or something, but
it's definitely a horror film, but in the way that like certain types of horror films have this kind of self-aware, maybe dark humor about them. Some of the kind of on-the-nose political commentary feels very self-conscious. And it's not like scary. It's not like watching The Thing or Prince of Darkness where it just kind of like rattles your soul, but definitely an interesting film, and I'm glad I watched it. And I'm excited to probably watch it 3 more times this week just because, you gotta.
Would you say you watched it on YouTube?
Oh yeah, I couldn't find a copy, so there was someone put a transfer up on YouTube in its entirety, and it is like really pixelated and hard to see some of the parts, but I'm waiting on my legally obtained copy of this film so that I can watch a better version of it. But it was something, an experience.
It sounds interesting. Like even if it's considered his weakest, it sounds like a trip to watch.
It definitely is. And I think Carpenter is one of those filmmakers that's just such a master in my mind that even their like lesser or weaker films, I'm not really big into ranking movies, but they're still beneficial to watch from a filmmaking perspective, but also just to see how a great filmmaker makes creative choices with very limited resources. In this case, you can tell the budget was not very big. The production design is, it's not the best, but I think it's good.
Very nice. All right, Jesse, we got some time left. Take us home.
All right. So this past week, I think it was this past week, Andrew and I watched Shiva Baby. It's about a woman who I think she kind of has herself kind of situated in like a sugar daddy situation. She kind of has some exchanges with men she meets on the internet, maybe for some sexual things for money. And then, so one day, she's meeting up with one of her daddies, and they have a pretty fine afternoon together. And then she has to go attend a Shiva, or basically like from my understanding, it's like a Jewish funeral after party, like wake visitation thing. And so she goes sorry, Ron or other Jewish listeners, if I'm not really correctly assessing that, but
you're in the neighborhood, I think, of correctness.
And anyway, so she goes to this Shiva with her mom and dad. She meets them there, I guess. And very quickly runs into two people who she does not want to see, one being her ex-girlfriend and the other being her sugar daddy, who she just saw this afternoon. So she is very quickly, increasingly feeling stressed out for a number of reasons. One, it's never great to run into your ex, especially when your ex is the talk of the town. She's like about to go to law school, and everyone's asking you, well, what are you doing after you graduate? And you don't really have a good answer for that. And then, there's a lot of posturing of all these mothers kind of gossiping with one another, wondering like, well, what's she doing with herself? Why is she doing gender studies, like women's studies major? What the hell are you supposed to do with that? And her kind of not having a great answer for that, but also like, shut the fuck up. Why do you feel like you have to know everything? Like, you're just my mom's friend. Why do I have to have an answer for you? So feeling increasingly stressed about all this questioning that she's getting about her major. And then a lot of people asking her very inappropriate questions about her weight, because she recently, like, I guess, lost a lot of weight, and people are like gossiping very unsubtly about whether or not she's anorexic or has an eating disorder or something like that, which when you lost a lot of weight, like, people don't need to, like, obviously I've lost a lot of weight. Stop asking. Like, if you're asking me, did you lose a lot of weight? The answer is, you can probably tell, yes, I did. Why do we need to have this question? Or why do we need to, like, have this whole thing? So, like, and as somebody who has lost a lot of weight recently, like, it gets kind of annoying to get that question all the time. And even if it's healthy or unhealthy, like, just like, why? So she gets this question a lot. She's got her ex-girlfriend sitting there. They keep making like kind of vicious eye contact. Then she sees her sugar daddy, who's there with his wife, and their baby, who never stops crying. And so the whole movie is like 87 minutes long of just increasingly stressful situations in a very small amount of space. And I feel like I really, really was fascinated watching it, just like, wow. I just feel like the movie very, very captures what it feels like to feel increasingly anxious. And no matter what you do to try to alleviate that, you get like smacked with just another situation that makes it worse. You can't really take a second to breathe because you encounter another situation. And at the same time, like, there's a lot of social ways that you're supposed to be responding, especially in a situation like this, when you're at a Shiva or like a funeral type setting, where you're really supposed to be putting on a certain face and you're only supposed to say and do certain things. And when you're having like a very internal meltdown, it's very, very hard to continue to try to access that logic brain when it feels like everything is crumbling around you and you just want to explode. And she does not handle these encounters in the most sophisticated ways at times. I think she becomes increasingly annoyed with the sugar daddy character, because she did not know he was married, did not know he had a kid. It looks like she's like continues to experience some increasing jealousy as she kind of sees him with his wife there. She's also got some like lingering strange feelings for her ex-girlfriend, and it seems like her ex-girlfriend kind of has some lingering strange feelings for her as well. And I think if you want to just see a movie that like perfectly captures a spiraling anxiety attack, this movie does that, and it your mileage varies on whether or not you want to see that and feel that for 87 minutes. But I thought it was fascinating. I really, really enjoyed it. I think I thought it was great. I believe we watched it on Amazon. Yeah, makes sense. That checks out.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard good stuff about it. I think it came out TIFF last year around that time.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And so, it's good that it's been finding some life in the rental streaming world.
Yeah, I dug it.
Awesome. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back talking Tangerine after this.
Do I need to make two separate recording things, or can I just keep playing one?
Whatever you want to do.
Let me make.
I just pause and then.
I paused, but Andrew usually does two separate ones, and I don't know if I should or not.
I like the two separate ones, but I mean, it's not going to kill me.
I can see myself now. Oh my god, that's a little intense.
Oh, here.
There we go.
Yeah. Can you help me make a 2?
God, that's a scary image. This came in like a shadow.
It's unfriended.
Yeah.
Unfriended 3.
Now he's just an arm.
And it will only record on that one.
Correct.
Cool beans.
Go back in your shadow world, Andrew.
Bye.
Andrew, go back in your shadow world.
Hello. Nice to see you.
All right.
Alright, be careful. Lock the door behind you.
What the fuck's gonna come in the door?
The cat, I would assume.
What's gonna come? Why are you gonna lock the door? What's gonna go in there?
You're gonna get
I
sucked
don't
into your
know.
laptop or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, I don't know. I might, like, a demon could try to come and impregnate me. Like, who knows, you know?
Damn, I hope not.
They do that. They do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know.
For me, it's just a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
For a demon, you know, maybe it's Seaman's Day. I don't know.
Siemens Day?
Demon Seaman. Demon Seaman Day.
Siemens Day.
Wow, I'm glad the live audience right now is hearing that. And experiencing that.
Siemens Day. That's gross.
I
Gross
didn't.
day.
Yeah, it's not my thing. It might be a demon's thing. I don't know.
You know, different strokes, different folks.
Yeah, and then you know, my luck. I try to go to an abortion clinic to get this demon baby out of me, and my dad shows up. It's like a whole thing. I don't want to deal with that. So
yeah,
It's Ron Perlman.
I know, man. I didn't even know my dad was Ron Perlman. That's the awkward thing. So, there's that.
oh my god, it's too early for me to be tired.
Were you out in the sun today or anything?
No, I was just because I was driving from Nashville. I drove
that's
like
exhausting.
3 hours. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, ugh.
Do your family live in like deep Nashville or like more like Mount
No.
Juliet area or Hermitage?
Hermitage.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Hermitage, Old Hickory area. So it's kind of nice because it's on the side that is Knoxville side.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to drive like through the city when I get back. But
Yeah.
yeah. And then also, gosh, was it last night? I went and saw this movie with my friends. And so I was over in like the Green Hills area at the Belcourt.
Belcourt.
At the Belcourt.
The Biltmore?
Biltmore, Asheville, Belcourt, Nashville.
But then there's also Belmont. Don't get that confused.
Right. Oh, yeah. And they're right next to each other. You know.
Nashville.
Nashville, it's very confusing.
Nashville's a hassle, man. I would never.
Oh my god, I know. Every time I go back and drive there, I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. Even like driving through Mount Juliet, which is where Andrew's family lives, like if you go on that Providence Road, like where the exit is, it's
I know. It's a nightmare.
Oh.
Yeah. I've gotten used to like Knoxville free parking everywhere on demand at all times. And I'm like, yeah, because I also just like when I was in high school and stuff, I just rode the train and the bus everywhere. And so it was like, okay, cool. I don't have to park my car.
Yeah.
But anyway.
This is our Patreon only Tennessee Transit talk.
Exactly. Yeah, the MTA.
I just feel like Knoxville kind of spoils you because you go to like a bigger city and you're like, ugh, what is this? Ew, ugh, I can't stand it. Traffic, yuck, I don't need it.
Yeah, oh my god.
I'm not
where do you live, Aster?
I'm in Chicago.
Oh,
okay, yeah. Well, then you're like laughing at us.
I know, yeah. Like I can't handle
like
it.
Yeah, I just today had to go to the police station to buy more parking stickers overnight because I haven't updated my my license plates. There's been a moratorium because of the pandemic, and like the neighborhood we live, like every night I have to make sure my car is on a different street for street cleaning.
Oh, no.
Or you get like a $50 ticket, and they are motherfuckers with those tickets. It's just it's the one thing I hate. We do have a garage in the back, but my wife's vehicle isn't that, so I get to hop around the different streets.
Yeah, that's fun.
Are you in like Chicago proper or like a burb?
I am in Berwyn, which is a burb that next to Cicero, which borders the city. So I feel like technically I can just say Chicago. It's not like Naperville or Aurora.
Yeah.
You can see the Sears Tower from down the street.
Oh, sweet! Which is now
that's
the Willis
Chicago
Tower
proper. Yeah.
Yeah, no one calls it the Willis Tower. Only the
I
people that own the
know.
building call it that. Yeah. Chicago's very weird about the names of things. Like I once saw when I worked downtown on State Street, I was working at Nordstrom Rack, and across was where the old Marshall Fields was, and it's like a historic building, and it's now a Macy's, and everyone's like, Macy's sucks, it's really expensive. And one time I saw a protest where they're like, bring back Marshall Fields.
Oh my
And
God.
I was walking by it, this older woman walked by and looked me in the eye and goes, isn't that just ridiculous? Like this full-on like civil rights march, but just a bunch of like fucking dorks mad that the store is now a different name. But
wow, that's great.
Classic Chicago.
Man, I grew up in Highland Park. It's like North Chicago,
yeah.
a bit north, quite a bit. My dad was in the military, so we lived in Fort Sheridan. This is like the naval base up there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's all. I was just curious. My brother lives now in Ravinia, but he got married in the Sears Tower, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I have friends that work there at
In the Sears Tower.
Yeah. There's a law office there. One of our friends works at. But
oh man.
Yeah, Berwyn is my wife's hometown, which is why we're here. I'm from Michigan originally, but I've lived in and out of Chicago for like 10 or so years, so I kind of consider it like an adopted hometown. Oh, there's a kitty.
Gigi.
Oh, fuck over there, dude. fucking walking all over the place. What the hell is this? It's a podcast.
Cats are
very
cat.
important.
This is extremely serious business, guys.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some crazy LA times.
A place I've never been, unfortunately.
Yeah. Only the airport.
I watched this movie with a friend who's from LA, and the entire time I was like, "Do you know where that is?" And she was like, "Shut the fuck up!" I'm like, no. She's like, "Do you know that LA is like a big city?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean it's kind of like Hollywood, and that's about it." She's like, "No."
Have you been to that restaurant?
Yeah, I was just like, I was like, "Have you ever been to that donut place?" She's like, "No." I was like, "No." I'm just asking. I don't know.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
There's like what? There's like 5 streets in LA.
Yeah, I was like, I saw everything. I saw the sign. I saw, there's people yelling on the street. Like, what else do you need?
I read about it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's donuts and prostitutes. Like, what else do you want? Christ. Yeah. All right, here we go. It's good lead-in. In 3, 2, 1.
Oh, whoa, sorry, my recording messed up. 1 second.
Oh.
Sorry. Try it again.
I did that last time. It was mine that was messed up.
No. Maybe I'll try it again. Try again. Just count us in again.
In 3, 2, 1.
It's still doing it. What do I do?
Are you on Audacity?
Yeah.
I think you have to hit the pause button to start it back up.
The stop. Okay, pause.
Did he give you another track?
Yeah.
You got to make sure that track is selected.
It is, yeah. It's yellow. All right, I hit the pause button. And now 3, 2, 1. No, it says error recording device. Error code 9986 internal port audio.
Better unlock that door and call Shadow Man back.
He's gone. He left. Shadow Man. Should I just
call
try
the
to
cat.
do it? Should I just try to do it on the same track or something?
Yeah, just make sure you don't record over it. But I mean, that's fine if you want to just do it on the one track.
Well, I don't know how. Let's see. How do I put it all the way to the end of it?
This is also really good content.
I'm so sorry.
Between transit talk and how to work Audacity.
Yeah, for fans of Audacity and traffic, this is riveting.
They're like,
this one's for you.
This podcast is amazing. They talk about my favorite things. Yeah. Movies, how annoying parking is. That's it. That's all
Those
I
are my
talk about.
interests.
Yeah.
Why is it giving me an error? Why?
I don't know.
I don't know what to do.
I mean, you could always just save that file and then just start a whole brand new one.
Yeah, start a new one.
Okay.
And then that might be easier.
All right. So I'm so sorry. So save project. Are
you staring at the wall? GG.
Project?
GG. What are you staring at the wall for, man?
Ghosts.
Look like
Oh my
a
god.
fucking
Does-
moron.
Does GG stand for something, or is it like a GG Allen reference?
No, it's based off of the cat in Hayao Miyazaki's Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Oh my god, what in the world? What? If it's unmuted. Okay, it's unmuted. Now I can save it. Export as PDF. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
PDF?
MP4.
MP4. Yeah,
MP4,
is fine.
yeah. PDF? No.
I was like, a PDF? What the fuck?
I'm so sorry. Okay. Use arrow keys or enter after. What in the world? Okay. I don't know what this. Why did he not just stay? Dang it. I'm feeling very stressed now
I
because
think
we're
you have to
live.
fail.
This is
And I'm holding everybody
Shiva Baby
up.
2, Audacity.
Oh my god, I hate that he's gone because now I can't have help. He should have just stayed.
Yeah, he sucks. That's fine.
Anybody have some jokes like to stall?
No, no jokes.
No,
No
I
jokes.
just-
No jokes.
No jokes, only pain. Okay, I think it's saved. I think it's saved. It's saved, right?
I have a joke.
What do you mean? Yes.
Please share the joke. I'm fascinated to hear.
It's not really a joke. I have a new follower on Instagram. It's a Trade Your Bitcoin with Alyssa, and they're
Oh,
trying.
nice.
They're trying to DM me, probably about bitcoins.
Probably with a link that if you click on it will just eat your soul
Yeah,
completely.
I'm gonna delete that.
I have a joke, but it might be considered offensive.
Okay, do it.
All right. There's a black guy, a Jewish guy, and a Mexican guy, and they're sitting on a park bench. And then a racist goes and sits beside them.
Mm.
And then they look to the left and they see a little genie lamp. So they pick up the genie lamp and they rub the genie lamp, and the genie comes out. Genie goes, all right, I'm going to give each of you whatever wish you want. The Jewish guy goes, I want to go back to Israel, like live, amongst my people and do all that. And the genie's like, yeah, fine, done. Wish granted. Goes away.
Good.
Then he goes to the Mexican, and the Mexican guy goes, I want to go back to Mexico, be with my family, be with my people. The genie's like, perfect, great, boom, go. Black guy says the same thing. I want to go to Africa, be with my family, be with my people, etc. Genie goes, all right, cool, boom, go. Looks at the racist. He goes, well, what would you like? And the racist goes, so the Jewish man went back to Israel with all the rest of the Jewish people? And he's like, yes. He's like, so the Mexican guy went back to Mexico with all the Mexican people? And he's like, yes. He's like, black person went back to Africa with all the black people? And he's like, yes. He goes, I'll have a Diet Coke.
Wow.
I gotta go.
Aster's out.
It's been real.
Bye.
That was a good podcast. That was a good run we had as a Cinematary podcast.
Yeah, this is the last episode, guys. All right, we're not even talking about the movie. It's done.
Tangerine.
Cancel.
Down.
We're all
I think I've heard that before, maybe somewhere a little bit. I think I've got it ready now. Like,
It was effective in stalling, so
it was. I appreciate it.
No,
it was
thanks,
really,
Zach.
it was really good. This is
That's a
the
good
premium content.
I prefaced that it's going to be pretty offensive.
You did. I think so.
and you know what? Yeah, perfect.
All right. Let's see. I think it'll work.
You got it?
It will. Okay. Pause. Stop. Delete. Okay. New one. Tracks new. Sorry. Okay. It worked. This is for now.
Yay!
So,
Just
let's.
hit record and we're going to go.
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Okay. I'm recording too.
I'm now recording as well.
All right.
Yeah.
And we're back with part 2 of episode 357 of Cinematary. In this part, we'll be concluding our feel-good queer movie series, 2015's Tangerine. It's directed by Sean Baker from a script by Baker and Chris Burgock. The film stars Katana Kiki Rodriguez, Maya Taylor, Karen Gillan, and James Ransom. After hearing that her boyfriend/pimp cheated on her while she was in jail, a hooker and her best friend set out to find him and teach him and his new lover a lesson. Principal photography for the film took place in Hollywood, California, including West Hollywood clubs and Santa Monica Boulevard on Christmas Eve of 2013 and wrapped on January 18th of 2014. Baker and Bergach met transgender actresses Maya Taylor and Katana Kiki Rodriguez, who had no major acting experience, at a Los Angeles LGBT center in 2013. After viewing iPhone experiments on Vimeo, Baker and Radium Chung shot the film using 3 iPhone 5S smartphones. The money saved on camera equipment was used to pay for shooting locations and to pay extras. On the film being set on Christmas Eve, Maya Taylor told Interview Magazine that they really loved the idea for it taking place on that date, saying, quote, "There are a lot of transgender people who suffer without their families for whatever reason, and I feel like the movie really shows that, because neither one of those girls in the movie had families. They just have each other, and at the end, they still just had each other, regardless of who's cheating or who's fucking who." On building the story, Sean Baker told Filmmaker Magazine, quote, "We didn't fictionalize much, let's just say that. All the stories and the anecdotes that we heard, we pretty much just reenacted them in the film. There was stuff that was completely fictionalized, such as Alexandra having to pay to play. That's what I call it, to perform, to pay to perform. That came more from just the artist's perspective, what you have to do to get your art out there. But it also played into what these women have to do to express themselves. Alexandra wants to do, her dreams, her aspirations, are just to get out there and be seen and heard. She's an artist at heart. She's an entertainer at heart. She is a transgender woman of color, sex worker with so little opportunity due to discrimination and oppression, but she's still working her hardest just to get her art out there." There was something that was more just a narrative device that I thought really encapsulated her struggle. So that was basically fictionalized, but everything else comes from the research time that we spent not only with Maya and Kiki, but with a lot of other people from that neighborhood, some of them women who actually worked the corner. On telling a trans story, Baker told Film Comment, quote, It would be more interesting and respectful if we tried to tell universal stories that can be applied to any culture or subculture and tell those within the communities. As I get to know these individuals from these communities, my personal empathy grows. I see that being able to happen with audiences as well. They can identify or put themselves in that world just through the themes. So I think I'm trying to see how I can apply that to different stories. They're different every time. Tangerine was the riskiest one because we were going for full-out comedy, and that stems from the fact that I got to know Maya well enough that she told me, you better make a movie that I'm going to laugh at, and the girls will be entertained by it, because if you just make a heartstrings thing where it's all doom and gloom, then I won't watch this. The LA Times in 2015 said, "The chemistry of the leads and their authentic, crackling dialogue makes it a pleasure to tag along for the day." Variety 2015 said, "Sean Baker delivers another compassionate portrait of life on the LA margins with this big-hearted, low-budget tale of 2 transgender prostitutes." And The Wrap in 2015 said, "A necessary portrait of a multiracial LA as a concrete-surfaced hard knocks-a-thon, as well as hilarious and high-spirited comedy with a dramatic third-act curveball that reminds us that there are aching hearts under the quips and weaves." And on that note, let's talk a little bit about Tangerine. Jessy, this is your series that you curated, so I'm curious what struck you about this movie to include it in the Feel Good Queer Movie series.
I'm going to be honest and just say that it was we kind of struggled with this selection specifically because I don't know. I think that movies about transgender people, and especially movies about transgender people with kind of that have kind of happy stories are pretty difficult to come by. And so when we were kind of thinking through what are some movies that would be like a feel-good movie about transgender people, we really struggled. And one, I think one standout movie for sure is, oh my God, why am I blanking on the movie's name?
What is it about? Are there any big actors in it?
The documentary.
Paris is Burning.
Disclosure.
Paris is Burning.
Oh.
I think that is probably just 90% of it super feel good, but it definitely has some. It ends on a pretty harsh and reality bursting note, and so it didn't feel like the right fit here. So we felt like Tangerine, even though it's kind of a movie about stress a little bit, is kind of fun too at its core. Like it's kind of a very silly movie, and I think that's really highlighted through the way the camera is just like following her, just like power walking through the city trying to find her man and bust him up, and the really raucous music that they play throughout. Even though it's kind of stressful, it is fun and feel good too, I think, and so it seemed like a good fit. But I don't know. I kind of want to pass it to you guys, and I'm more curious to hear kind of what your takes on it are.
Yeah. Aster, what's your history with Tangerine?
Sure, yeah. So, unlike the Birdcage, the last episode I was on, where I have like this lifelong relationship with it, Tangerine I just saw recently. And it's a film that obviously I've known about, I've read a lot about, but for whatever reason, I didn't see it. And I think part of that is because like my job, basically, I'm a film programmer, a queer film programmer. And before that, I always sometimes avoided the big buzz queer movies that everyone's like, you got to see this. Maybe because I'm an asshole, I don't know. Or like, you can only be disappointed so many times. And unfortunately, I think Tangerine just kind of got lumped into that. And then I sometimes get a bit, I don't know, bristly at films that deal with poverty. It's just something kind of hard to sit through as someone that grew up really poor. And so I, unfortunately, to my detriment, just kind of ignored the movie other than like, oh yeah, this is an important film. So having recently watched it, I was really kind of blown away by it, by a lot of the stuff in the film. And I'm sure we'll get into this. Sorry, my cat's kind of in my way. Beef, come on.
Beef also has thoughts on Tangerine.
Yeah.
Beef kind of is Tangerine, so, yeah.
He is. If we're lucky, he will yell, and it is very loud. It's anyway, not to get distracted by my own cat, but I really love, like Jess, what you're talking about, this balance between, like, the film handles a lot of pretty heavy stuff because it is a group of kind of economic outsiders, sex workers, drug users and drug dealers, like the taxi driver. Like, it's a lot of people that are mostly people of color or immigrants, living kind of lives where they're, selling their labor, selling their body to make ends meet. There's just kind of like a cascade of issues in the way that, like, that's what it is to be poor in the United States. But it handles it with this really human touch that centers the performances and the people, that they feel more like people than characters to me. And I know a lot of that was like co-constructed with the actual performers collaborating on the story. So I guess, Zach, to quickly answer your question about my history with it, it's, I just kind of knew about it as an important movie and didn't really watch it until recently. And now I'm kind of like, this is a fascinating movie that I find really interesting. And the way it handles stress without being like stressful to watch, I'm really fascinated by, because I have panic attacks. I have anxiety attacks kind of frequently. And sometimes there are certain films like, what is that one with Adam Sandler that everyone likes?
Punch Drunk Love?
No.
Uncut Gems.
Yeah, Uncut Gems. Hated that movie. I didn't
like it either.
And like, when I saw it in the theater, I was like, is part of this because it's like literally giving me a panic attack, the way that it's shot and edited?
Yeah.
Although I think there's a lot of stuff about it that's just not very good. But with this film, with Tangerine, I was so like captured by the star performances of the two main characters, and the way that it deals with like people in poverty just kind of have to like adapt and roll with the punches and make the best. And yeah, I have a lot of other thoughts, but I'll stop there so I don't ramble on too much. But yeah, really, really into this film.
Nice. Julianna, what about you?
I watched this film for the first time, I want to say maybe a year or two ago, and I kind of came into it in an interesting way in that I knew absolutely nothing about the plot or about the characters, but the way I was introduced to it was the iPhone movie, which is a lot of the sort of, I guess, like marketing and hype around it, which is definitely, I'm sure we'll talk about later. But I mean, damn, hell hath no fury but a woman scorned. Like, I feel like that's definitely like, if this movie had a tagline, that would be it. There is like definitely an anxiety inducing sort of aspect to the movie, but sort of my relationship with it is I think I watch this movie like some people might watch a football game, where like that opening scene when they're like talking in the donut shop, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna go kick his ass, and she like walks out of the door and that insane music starts playing. I just am like up on my feet like, yes, get him. I absolutely love this movie, and so I think that it's like the energy of it, because it is kind of comedic, but also like, you know, it's dealing with like some really serious stuff. It like it's just so energizing. The colors of it, like sort of the way the camera operates, the performances of the characters. And so like honestly, I think also because I've seen it several times now, I'm just like, it just makes me like so excited to watch it.
Yeah. Well, I saw a really interesting insight when I was kind of just like going through reviews of this on Letterboxd, and somebody was talking about, because I think one of the it was very much like the industry takeaway, you know, when it was just talking about like that it was shot on an iPhone. Like when I was pulling like research from quotes and stuff, every interview was like, the film everybody's talking about that was shot on an iPhone, you know, it was, and that is kind of like, there's something interesting about that. But somebody who had a really nice insight talking about like how that works into how the characters are presented, because you kind of think of like iPhones and selfie culture and, you know, people shooting like, this was pre-TikTok, but like Instagram, doing stuff on Instagram and TikTok, and like there's just like this kind of personal level that you're engaging with this device, and at the same time, like you're kind of also like making you're still kind of performing, making a character for like your Instagram account or your TikTok account. And they were talking about how like the fact that you kind of have this like iPhone quality, this iPhone aesthetic, for you know, especially Alexandra's character like doing sex work, and the taxi driver character, and they like have like these interactions that are also, you know, like like some people value like the in-person interactions over like a phone interaction because they're like, oh, it's more genuine. But the point that they made in this review was that you look at like the interactions that like Alexandra has with the people that she comes in contact with, as well as the taxi driver has, they're just as like, you know, detached as you know, as you would if you were like interacting with somebody on Instagram, or you were like, you know, on a YouTube stream or any, like literally anything online. And I thought that was interesting because like, I think that the whole iPhone, I don't want to say gimmick because it's not really a gimmick. They just kind of utilize that. I think the whole iPhone aesthetic for the film really does like capture the personal in a way that feels very like genuine and true for how these characters live their lives. So I guess I'm curious what you all made of like how they shot this film and kind of the way it looks and is vibrating.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Beef.
We're all waiting for someone else to jump in. I could dive in real quick. I think I had forgotten about the marketing when it came out as like the iPhone movie, and it reminded me a lot of in the like mid to late 90s when the Dogma films were coming out of Denmark, like with how like Lars von Trier got his start, and the Celebration, the Vinterberg film, like the whole thing was like, filmmakers are using digital cameras now, and like digital cameras have been around since, you know, the 70s kind of, and you know, very available in the 1980s, and there have been a lot of like experimental video artists using this stuff. And so I think the marketing is always going to pick up something that makes it seem unique, but I felt like when I was watching Tangerine that the quality of the iPhone, and of course like you know, they had, sorry, there's like cat hair floating around. the equipment that they used along with the iPhone, like the Steadicam stabilizer, they had different like lenses and stuff attached to it. So it wasn't just like a raw cell phone that they're filming the movie with. Of course, in like post-production colorization and stuff like that. But it created a real fascinating intimacy that both felt like cell phone culture in the way that like the vast majority of images that we all consume have this kind of grainy cell phone quality that we're kind of acclimated to because it's the majority of what we look at, and this kind of like surveillance feel, which I thought was kind of interesting as well, because in America we live in a surveillance state and there are cameras everywhere and everyone's filming everything, but the warmth of the temperature, it like felt warm, it created this kind of like heat to it, but it also, I thought, really smartly expressed the kind of movement and energy of the film that, like, Julianna, you were talking about with once she leaves Donut Time and that music plays, like, that's when I was hooked on the movie. It's like, holy shit, what am I in for? Because I didn't really know the plot before seeing it this year. I was like, yeah, this is a movie about transgender people and it's shot on an iPhone. That was kind of the extent. But yeah, I think that the technology used to make the film is used really smartly and deliberately to create a really fascinating aesthetic. And it doesn't just feel like, hey, we had smartphones, so we're using them now. It really felt like of a piece that I thought was very interesting and kind of made me wish more films looked and felt like this film. Strangely, like I would take more iPhone quality films if they had that energy.
Oh, let me tell you, I'll go to bat for Steven Soderbergh's Unsane.
I love that film.
Like, I know this one was like like you said, is like the iPhone film, but for me, Unsane by Steven Soderbergh is the iPhone film. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies. That movie is so good.
See, I think if I didn't know that it was on an iPhone, maybe I'm just like, I don't have very special eyes. I don't know that I would like just think anything of it, but maybe that's just an untrained. I don't know. I think knowing it, there's kind of things you can look for, and maybe you're right that it kind of does have this interesting, intimate effect. But I think I wouldn't necessarily know that if I didn't know that. I don't have special eyes. That's what I said. My eyes are not special.
Isn't that a
You guys
commercial?
have special eyes.
Look at me with your special eyes.
Your special eyes.
Some
That's what I was
contact
doing.
lens commercial.
Yeah. I think I've dropped like 4 commercial
Well,
tie-ins in this conversation we've had. But
I think that the iPhone, the iPhone, just the kind of the camera work, kind of to Aster's point, like there is like this intimacy to it because, again, like I was saying before, that's just kind of how we engage with stuff. It's not even just like a movie or like a TV show, but just like anything. Like we watch a news clip, we watch somebody sharing something on Twitter, like all of this, like we're all engaging with it through kind of a screen. And so I think even though it got marketed to seem like a gimmick, I think that they're like Aster said, like they used it very smartly, and it creates this intimacy that feels like genuine and real, compared to like, like imagine if they were like trying to kind of create like that final sequence at Donut Time, but it like had like that corporate Netflix digital look to it, like how unemotional that would be. Like this felt like this felt much more emotional. So
it gave it that World Star hip hop video feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's what they're kind of playing. That's the kind of comedic feel that they're really trying to go in for. This like kind of over the top, like almost like anime or something level of like, I'm angry and here's what I'm gonna do about it. Yeah, and like we're running towards this ridiculous goal. There's moments in the movie like when she starts just beating the shit out of the girl, the blonde. What did her name? Dina.
Dina.
Where I'm sort of like, I'm just like supposed to be rooting for this, but I almost kind of feel bad because there is like a moment of plausible deniability with Dina where you're like, maybe this isn't even the right girl. But it's very interesting with like, it's almost like there's this criminal like underworld of everybody like trying to keep like hush hush on where her man is and where Dina is and everything. It's like they really knew as soon as she found out about this was exactly what was going to happen. I think that's hilarious. Like all these people conspired because they all knew she was going to lose her fucking shit when she found out that this was going on. And so like when she just starts beating the shit out of Dina in the street, there's a moment where you're like, you almost feel bad for poor Dina because you kind of wondered, like, did she even really do this? But then you find out, like, yeah, she totally did, and she's just like playing it off really well.
I saw a quote from Sean Baker where he described the scene where she breaks into that
little sexy hotel situation.
Yeah, the prostitution house.
Yeah.
But she breaks it as like a clown car erupting, like because it's so chaotic because you like go in there and you keep going into rooms and people keep coming out and you're like, how many damn people are in here? Yeah, I just like that he described it as like a clown car exploding. I was like, that sounds fair.
It's definitely that vibe.
It's funny too because when I was watching that scene, I was like, "Oh, like man, this is like an intense sex party," and then I realized like that's definitely not what's going on here. Like this is just work going on. They're working.
Yeah, it's a place of business. Just.
But I was like, "Oh, damn, okay, turn up." But then I realized, oh, okay, that's not good. It's not exactly the vibe.
Yeah, maybe a little different.
I'm just naive. I think I was like.
One of the other things, just kind of continuing to work off like the marketing for this movie, but the other thing was that you have these two actual trans actresses playing trans roles in the film. I think Maya Taylor, who played Alexandra, has gone on to be in other stuff. I think she was in some Tyler Perry movies and some other like TV shows and stuff. But they weren't, well known or like known actresses at all, and kind of came into this role. And so, in these roles, I mean, what sticks out to y'all about kind of like their performance and just kind of that chemistry? Because I saw in one of the quotes that the two were roommates at one time, so like they're friends, they know each other.
Yeah. I definitely felt a chemistry there. And I also I felt like the girl who plays is it Alexandra or Drea?
It's Alexandra.
And Alexandra. I just feel like a lot of her reactions feel very, very real. She's like, oh my God, like, I am not doing this. And then she'll walk away and she's like, but I can't just leave her like to these own devices. And she keeps like trying to follow and help. And I don't know. I felt like she really captured this. Like, this is not how a person should be behaving, but also this is my person, and how am I supposed to help in the situation, but also not like lump myself in with this too. I enjoyed her a lot. That she did such a good job. I feel like I'm not vocalizing that well though.
No, totally you are. I am just kind of floored by the performances of the two leads. I mean, both are incredible, but Kiki Rodriguez's performance as Cindy really kind of, I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to be so dynamic and multifaceted. Like some of the facial expressions stick in my head. Like the moment she realizes, like when it's outed that Alexandra had sex with her pimp boyfriend while she was in prison, just the look on her face is devastating. But then like the rapport that they have, the chemistry, the relationship that they have, it's just like funny and sassy and sarcastic, but also I don't know, there's like this balance between a realism and with Jess, was it you that mentioned anime? Like there's this kind of like this unrealistic aspect to it, and there's this really great piece by the film critic Willa McClay in Clio on this film. It's incredible, essential reading on the film, and she talks about like there's slapstick qualities to the film, like but there's also this like grounded, gritty realism to it. But like when Cindy is dragging this other poor white woman across town, is like that's where it kind of crosses the threshold of like that couldn't really happen without you getting caught, but you just totally believe it. And I think that like Kiki and Maya Taylor, who plays Alexandra, their performances are just so multifaceted. Like the scene where Alexandra is singing and there's only the two members of the audience and they're watching it, is like such a gorgeous scene, and the performances are so touching. And I think that for me, the performances felt all of a piece with, like, not to go back to the iPhone or the way that the camera was used, but everything in the film kind of feels of a piece of like the of just kind of the diversity of existence, in a sense, like the spectrum of emotions and feelings that you go through. And I think what really bolsters that for me is the complexity of the characters. Like, I thought it was interesting that everyone is kind of shitty at a certain part in this movie. Like, no one's really all good and no one's really all bad. Even the pimp has his moments of like, dude, that's shitty, or dude, that's true. And I think that really makes the film, I don't know, much more profound than I was expecting, that it can move between these different feelings and have complex characters. And I think, again, Willow writes about this in her piece, but this is, I think, what one of the strengths of the film is, that like for two IRL trans women playing trans characters in the film, is that they're presented as these complex, multifaceted people. Because, you know, to get into the conversation about representation, you know, trans people, especially sex workers, and like any depiction of poverty, the people are either like just helpless victims, which, you know, victimhood does happen because of poverty, and the, you know, capitalist structures that oppress people, but humans still have agency. They're making choices. They're navigating their systems in complex ways, which sex work, and the debates about, you know, sex work and whether it should be legalized or abolished, it gets into these arguments about like whether or not the people doing sex work have agency or making decisions. Like, how is it different from people working in coal mines or at McDonald's? You're still selling your physical body for a profit. And so anyway, I'm going off a little bit, but that's all to say that I think the performances and the writing of the characters really show this dynamic between the complex choices that people make in these difficult situations. And I think that both of the leads, the entire cast really, but both of those two leads really bring and sell that complexity, that like these people have to make choices. Some of those choices are hard. Some of their decisions are not good ones. They all do kind of shitty stuff. But they're human, and there's compassion there, and there's complexity. And I think that's really the lasting power of Tangerine as a great film, is the fact that it nails that complexity in so many different ways, because it's not just like hookers with a heart of gold, or, you know, like, look at these miserable fucking bitches in this shitty situation. And there's a lot of movies like that. And there's a lot of middle-class people that like to go see movies like that. And so the fact that, you know, a white cis dude was able to make a movie with two trans women of color and collaborate and create this kind of scenario is really impressive to me. I'll stop there because I feel like there was one question and I gave like 10 answers to 10 different topics.
You hit on a lot of like really fascinating, really great stuff though, that I think that I also, you know, kind of thought about when I was watching this. But I guess back to the original question of like the performance, I think it's like, you know, these are two women who are like not professional actors, that kind of thing. And I think that maybe they were able to give like such an amazing nuanced performance, because it's like not only do they know each other, but also this is kind of their home turf. Like, one of the things that I really love about this movie is how I've never been to LA. I don't really know what the city is like, but it's like just like it's a lot of walking around and going to different places, and they just are so comfortable in like in this environment, and you kind of it adds to sort of the, you know, that they live there, and the way that they navigate this sort of invisible connections, like these invisible social connections, whether it's like the work that they're doing or just like the people that they know and that kind of thing, is just super powerful. And I think that it's also like, you know, this could have been a movie that was, you know, sad and hand-wringing about acceptability and I want to be seen, you know, as a woman and that kind of thing, which those kind of movies and those kind of stories absolutely should be told, but that should not be the only story that's being told. And so I think that's part of the reason why, like, I watch this movie and like there are parts of it that make me stand up and cheer, because I'm like, hell yeah, you are like so powerful. You're the queen of this like tiny like world. that exists, you know, in like a 10-block radius in one city. And there's just like the power of that is so amazing. But it's also not played up to a point where it's like totally unrealistic and as though they like never face difficult things. And so I think that that's really fascinating. And it is amazing like how that sort of balance has been struck. I had some other things I had to say, but my brain is, they've flown away. I might come back to them later. I just remembered something. I was going to say, I think that the thing that like this movie is the best at is showing that kind of like anxious, but also sort of empowering feeling of the like, I have to keep going. I have to, you know, a shark that like cannot never stop swimming. Like, you know, because if you stop to think about like all of the shit that's happened and all the difficult things and how hard everything is, like you might just fall apart, which is not sustainable, but it's a way that a lot of people have to live. And whether that's, you know, because of poverty or, you know, because of gender or, you know, a lot of different things can cause this. I think that is like so wonderfully authentic. And it kind of is the reason why it's both an anxiety-inducing movie, but also sort of like a fun, energetic movie at the same time.
I like that point.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I feel like the final shot of the movie really speaks to that point that you just made about like, it doesn't wrap everything up in a bow. It doesn't like solve all these problems, but it is this moment of like solidarity and tenderness and friendship. And you know, like this world still exists after that shot. Like there's still going to be more bullshit that they're going to have to deal with on the day to day. And the way that it's integrated into their reactions is just so well done. And one of the things that really, really struck me while watching it was like, the way that different kind of transphobic or queerphobic aspects are layered into it, but not like spotlit, like here's a moment where they're misgendered or, you know, someone calls them a fag or, you know, it's like, it becomes almost banal and mundane in the daily tapestry of existing as a trans person, which I think is true for most other trans people that I know. Like, it's just a daily thing. And yeah, it sucks and it hurts and different people handle it differently. But having that just be in the background so that there's this, like, it felt real and authentic. Like, yeah, they're shitty people and they're either objectifying trans bodies or making fun of them, policing them, whatever. But also trans people are still living and making choices and connecting with their community and, you know, dealing with drama and all this other stuff. And I thought that balance was really, I was surprised by that because not a lot of films do that well. One, because not a lot of trans filmmakers are able to make a lot of films. And also because, you know, a lot of trans representation in film is like crappy Oscar bait where it's like you said, like hand wringing, like, look how awful this is. Look at this miserable fucking person and how shitty their life is. It's like, yeah, that's the movie. Give it an Oscar. And just the delicate way it handled this, I thought was really well.
It's like that really makes you think, okay, give them an Oscar because I thought about that. Man, that really sucks for them.
Which is kind of interesting because I was reading interviews and a lot of the name checks that they would make in terms of like, you know, pop culture trans things was the Danish Girl and Caitlyn Jenner, which neither has aged very well.
Yeah, both not great.
Yeah, especially Caitlyn. Fucking, oh Lord.
Yeah, exactly. But sorry, Julianna, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. Let me remember what I was about to say. Oh, right. About the sort of like casual instances of transphobia that are just like kind of just part of the tapestry. I immediately think about like the scene where the police officer is harassing them and then gets into the car out of the earshot of, I believe it's Alexandra's character, and is like calling her Alexander and stuff like that. I really liked just like sort of the subtlety of it, where it's not like, I think maybe sometimes in like maybe like LGBT movies or movies that focus a lot on race, there's a sort of like the boogeyman, the racist, the transphobe who comes in and does this egregious thing, and an audience member who is maybe like casually transphobic can go, well, I'm not that, I'm one of the good ones, like kind of thing, or they can feel kind of I guess absolved of guilt, and this is the kind of thing where it's obviously it's awful, but it's more casual. It doesn't allow someone to just sort of like be like, oh, okay, yeah, well, I'm not that. I'm not like the racist or the transphobe.
Well, back to the point that Aster made earlier, it's very boring racism. It's like it's just like it's baked into like the day to day. Like you think of the scene with the police officers. And I think the police officer refers to Alexandra as Alexander, like in the car, and goes, "Oh, you never dealt with Alexander before."
See, I didn't even catch that. I'm really
And then when she exits the car, uses the calls her Alexandra, like uses her pronouns, but it's very just like subtle stuff. And like, I agree. I think there's something. At least for me, like it's something more powerful than like having, the Sam Rockwell character who's just sitting there yelling slurs at people and doing that role. Because I think that the way that you described Julianna as like the boogeyman is a good way of describing it, because I think people can kind of just lean on that, whether it's a movie about like transphobic people or racist people or like whatever. It just kind of like it's like an out that they can kind of take and be like, well, I'm not that person. I mean, I might be rude, but I'm not that person.
I think another layer to it that I think is really interesting is like the character of Dina, the white sex worker that's dragged into everything. There are like moments of solidarity between her and Cindy and Alexandra. Like they share intimate moments or moments of solidarity. And then in the next instance, it's like, at the end in the final scene in Donut Time, where, Dina calls Chester, like, you're a full fag now if you're going to marry this trans person. And like all of this emphasis on, Cindy's dick and stuff like that. So I think like the way that the characters are constantly fluidly moving between like what we would consider good or bad or, different behaviors or beliefs, I think is really fascinating, because that seems more authentic to just experience of life. Is like, not everyone is a boogeyman, and sometimes really good people or really nice people also have really shitty beliefs or do really shitty things in particular moments, and vice versa. Like shitty people can like show up in weird moments. And so I thought that was really fascinating, the way that the film handled that and like layered those characters in that way. Because like 1 second you're like, all right, Dina, you're not too bad. And then, she said something completely transphobic. It's like, fuck you though. God damn it. Like,
I take it back.
Yeah.
Come on, we were rooting for you.
Yeah. You deserve to get your ass beat.
Well, I think there was that line that like she starts running her mouth in Donut Time, and Alexandra's just like, I was kind of on your side for a little bit, but you're just, screwing yourself over now. She keeps like digging in deeper. Any final thoughts on Tangerine before we wrap up?
I did have one just like thing that I meant to share this earlier when you asked about my relationship, but one of the things I thought was fascinating was the scene with the taxi cab driver where he picks up Anna Fox, played by Anna Fox, the porn performer. That scene where he picks her up and is like, no, I go down on you. And he's like, where's your dick? Where's your dick? She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I have seen that scene as a clip on like 4chan thousands of times. And I had no idea it was from this movie. Because when I was in grad school, my research is on different porn forums and how people use like GIFs and WebMs as like forms of communication. And a lot of it, some of it had to do specifically with trans pornography. So I'd seen this scene all the time. And I just thought like, is Anna Fox like was she in like a trans porn as a side character? Like, I didn't know what the source was. And then when I saw it in the movie, I was like, holy shit, I've seen that scene so many times. So I think technically my history with the film is knowing the Anna Fox scene intimately, but not knowing the context until when I recently saw it. So neither here nor there. Has nothing to do with our conversation.
That's interesting though. I had no idea.
Honestly, that's amazing. Yeah, that's great.
It shows up still all the time in like trans porn forums, that one clip. So
Wow.
If you're ever there, you'll see.
I gotta get
If you're ever in town.
yeah,
Yeah.
stop
we
on
didn't-
by.
yeah.
We didn't even touch on the whole subplot of. Well, I mean, we like barely touched on the whole subplot of the taxi cab driver, and also like there's just like so much more to discuss like about this film, and also about like the themes of infidelity and loyalty, and that sort of thing. So I don't know. Go watch this movie and then have discussions about that with your friends. So there you go. Call to action. It's good for the SEO. Anyway.
Jesse, anything final on Tangerine?
No, I was just really curious to hear your thoughts on it.
I like it. It's great. It's a great one. It's I like this one a lot. This is the third time I think I've watched it.
Okay.
It's good stuff. It's a great movie. All right. Let me get a cat hair on my mouth real quick. That'll wrap up this episode of Cinematary. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cinematary, on Twitter and Instagram at handle @Cinematary, and on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/Cinematary. We post all the movies that we talked about in this episode. Thank you to our patrons, patreon.com/Cinematary. If you would like to support the show, head over there. You can watch it. You can watch us do this thing live. It's you can like talk or just engage with us. I don't know. You can throw in comments. We'll answer them, whatever.
You get the cool behind the scenes stuff, like when Jesse takes 10 minutes to try to get Audacity to work. It's like really fun.
You get the super fun stuff, like watching like Tennessee Transit Talk and Audacity help. It's all featured. You get Beef putting his face like a Hype Williams video in front of the camera, like it's the whole thing. But thank you to our patrons: Cam, Chad Newsom, Christina Daughtry, Corey Willingham, Harry Eskin, Candace Sisson, Ron Hayes, Titus Arthur, Tyler Chandler, and Whitney Rio Ross. Thank you so much for your patronage. Next week, we will be kicking off our Young Critics Watch Old Movies series for 2021. And we got a jam-packed schedule. We've already got a couple guests that are confirmed. So rolling down the list for the 1920s, our English language film will be Greed. Our foreign language film will be Diary of a Lost Girl. And right now we're going to have Thomas GLaDOS. I'm going to figure out how to say his name by the time we talk to him. But he is he's in charge of the Lois Brooks Society. So we're going to talk a little bit about Lois Brooks and her importance in the silent film world. 1930s English, we have It Happened One Night. And 1930s foreign, we have Madchen in Uniform, and we're going to be joined by Jenny Olson to talk about that film. And probably dig into a lot of stuff that we got into with this series in terms of, I kind of wanted to look at like LGBTQ plus films that were like from, coded from the silent era and things like that. So that should be an interesting discussion. 1940s English, we have Brief Encounter. 1940s foreign, we have Jour de Fête, the Jacques Tati film. 1950s English, we have The Sweet Smell of Success. 1950s foreign, we have Godzilla. 1960s English, we have Point Blank, and foreign, we have The Color of Pomegranates. 1970s English, we have Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, and foreign, we have Celine and Julie Go Boating, thanks to Julianna's strong campaign for the film.
It's a great one.
Well, there was a like marketing campaign behind it, but from Julianna, just specifically.
I quote tweeted it and it probably got like 3 likes. So
that's a pretty good Twitter day for me, honestly. Nobody likes my shit on Twitter.
And then we're gonna wrap it home with 1980s. We have the English film is Crossing Delancey, and the foreign is A City of Sadness. So. That's what we're looking at with Young Critics. We'll have the list on cinematary.com. We'll also update it if we get some more guests, because we get some stuff out there. But until then, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
Yay.
I got tired of talking. You get that point where you're just like talking, like, I'm tired, John.
Ah, you get
Yeah,
it.
I'm
You
done.
Get it, you know.
Yeah, it's whatever.
All right, I'm ending the broadcast now.